Good afternoon, everyone. Y'all have a seat. Welcome to the Gulf Coast P.P.A. Just ran out of my head what it was. But we're Professional Photographers Association, and our goal is to further the photography industry. So welcome. And there's a lot of people here. So what I would like to do is have everybody stand up and introduce themselves and tell me how you found out about the Gulf Coast P.P.A. You can start.
Okay. Hi, I'm Aislinn. I'm going to talk a little more about myself in just a second. But Rachel and I work together in Pensacola. We're wedding photographers primarily, also portrait. And we're here because Candace called and gave us the opportunity to talk. So we're super excited about that. So,
Well, Brad recommended you.
Oh, thanks, Brad.
Welcome.
Good job.
Thanks.
I'm Pat, and you told us about it at the Eastern Shore Camera Club meeting, so we thought we would come and see whose brain we could pick and if we could learn anything new.
Thank you for coming.
I'm Poppy, and I got the same story.
Okay.
I'm Ida Thrasher, and my business is Thrasher Photography. I'm Mobile.
I'm Jenny Gary, and very similar to what you said, from the Eastern Shore Camera Club, who talked about this group, and so I was very interested and wanted to come be a part of it.
I'm Candace Brown. I'm a wedding photographer in Fairhope. Yes, and I'm a member. I'm a P.P.A. member.
Where did you hear about it?
How did I hear about the group?
No, about the meeting.
Oh. So I'm the social media person. So.
And you arranged the location and the speaker.
I'm Luann McCarley, Photos by Lulu. I live in Foley, and I take happy pictures of tourists on the beach, mostly. And I learned about this group through P.P.A. because after I joined P.P.A. in 2015, I was looking to see what local things I could do. And I have been trying since then to get to a meeting, and I finally made it. So
My name is Shelby Heenan, and I know I've P.P.A. since 2012, and I work with Brad. So I take a picture like wedding, portraits in my time. I like this Spanish for.
I'm Brad Puckett, VP Photography. I've been a member of P.P.A. since 2009, I think. But I try to think how I found the group. I think it was online. I don't really remember.
My name is Malia Weatherford. I work with Kim French. I'm mainly as her second shooter, and she regretted she couldn't be here today, so she asked me to come instead.
John McCarty, member of Eastern Shore Camera Club. This last week was the first time I got 100 people together and it sounded like something.
That's good.
I'm Jim Stokes, the Executive Director, and I'm a retired professional photographer after 50 years. And this is my wife, Michelle.
I'm Michelle Stokes, and I follow him.
I'm Rachel Oliver, and I've been working with Aislinn for about 4 years now, and excited to be here.
And I'm Lou Thomas, the president of the Gulf Coast P.P.A. My company is Adobe House Media Production. I do photography and video. And welcome thank you all for coming. And hopefully, the people from the camera club, you can learn something. We do something every month, a little bit different. So if you don't get something this month, you may get something the next month, or ask us or tell us what you might want to learn, and maybe become part of the group, and we can go over that, because a lot of the things that we go over are from the group and what they want to learn. So we're open to any kind of ideas. So we're going to go right into the presentation. So Candace, if you don't mind.
Okay. You wanted me to introduce Aislinn. Of course, she did a good job of introducing
So many introductions.
herself. Yes. So I first met Aislinn several years ago. She was doing a talk for the Rising Tide Tuesdays Together group, and she's an incredibly talented photographer in weddings and portraits. She has the Aislinn Cape Photography, and then a year or so ago, year and a half ago, they opened her second brand, which is Wave Photography, and they do family photography and headshots and more of the portrait side of things and babies and everything. Yep. So she's talking about photographing wedding day details and some macro photography, and going to do a live ring shot shoot for us. So she's awesome at details. So I'm excited.
Thank you. Is it okay if I close that door?
Yeah.
Do you think that's all right?
I'll get it.
Oh, thank you. You got it, no worries. So,
There you go.
hi. So I'm Aislinn. That's the third introduction. So now we all know each other, which is great. I'm excited to be here. I know not everyone here is a wedding photographer, so when we were trying to come up with a topic, I tried to come up with something that spoke to what I knew, which is rooted in weddings but might not be as sort of simple or exclusive as photographing a bride in a veil. And details seemed like a great place to start, because I think no matter what we do, we all photograph details, wedding day, still lifes, florals, whatever it is that we do, so that's what I thought we'd talk about. This is Rachel here. She's going to click through for me. We are not a seamless presentation team, so if you see me going like this, it means it's time. So just bear with us, please. And please interrupt if you have questions as we go. Again, I'm here to talk with you, not at you. So if you want to learn anything else, or if you don't understand something I said, please know no question is off limits. I'm totally transparent, so ask away. All right. So this is us. I thought I'd start with just a little bit about us professionally. Aislinn Cape Photography is our main brand, our parent brand. We've been around since 2008. That's when I shot my first wedding for free. And I traveled. And I didn't know what I was doing. And it's all very much a mystery that somebody agreed to let me do that. But it kind of started the ball rolling. Today, we have grown. We're a team of 8. Of the 8 of us, 6 of us are photographers. Rachel, here's one of them. And then we have 2 non-photography full-time support staff that work with marketing and business development, tech and landscaping and rat removal when there's rats in the attic, and literally everything else you could possibly think of. So that's us. We're adorable, I think. As Candace said, about a year and a half ago, we opened Wave Photo. And the reason that we chose to do that in Pensacola is our wedding clients just started to grow up. And as wedding clients often do, they have babies and they need professional headshots, and there's all of these life things that happen, and they kept calling us, which was fantastic, and we just outgrew our space. We outgrew our space, we outgrew our brand, so we kind of reached a point that I think many professionals would reach, where you have to decide, are we going to say no, and really focus on one thing, or are we actually really going to do something else? And I decided that I needed more stress and chaos in my life, and that instead of simplifying, we were going to open up an entirely second company, which we have done. So that's pretty fun. Just as a metric, this year, our wedding brand will probably do between 100 and 115 weddings between all of the photographers. We'll do about 100 wedding-related non-wedding shoots, so engagement sessions, bridal portraits, boudoir sessions, whatever it is. And then under Wave, we'll do between 300 and 350 Wave shoots. And that's everything from, it was Lulu, right? You said you do beach sessions? So do we. Beach sessions in the summer, our cars are full of sand, to headshots for realtors who seem to need headshots all the time, and I'm very appreciative of that. To newborns, to commercial photography, to really anything that somebody wants to pay us to photograph, we will figure out how to do it if we don't already know. So that's us. That's what our pictures really look like. The other one, we looked so cute and formal, but realistically, this is more realistic, so I had to put that in. So in terms of details, I thought we'd start with what makes a detail, which seems like a pretty simple answer, but in terms of weddings, there's really 2 questions. One is, did somebody decide on it? Did somebody choose to do it? And number 2 is, did somebody pay for it? And if the answer to those is yes, then we have to photograph it as wedding photographers. It's our job. And Rachel, I think you can attest to this, that there's various pieces of the day that we spend just trolling the space, looking for the things that somebody chose and paid for, whether they're monogram napkins or a koozie or a locket that's tied to the back of a bouquet, or my least favorite detail to photograph, because I never see them, like badges sewn into the underside of wedding dresses, like, themes. It's our job to find them and shoot them. So that's what we'll talk about today. There's really three main types of details that I thought I would run through. There's your personal details, which are very wedding specific. Those are things like your bouquets and your garter and your handkerchief and your invitations and your ring box and your earrings and your mom's earrings and your dress and all of that fun stuff. There's reception details and then ring shots. So I thought I would just go through each one and kind of give some tips and tricks, things that I've learned that work for me, that are actionable items. If for those of you who are wedding photographers, maybe everyone here is very experienced, maybe glean a little something from it. And for those of you who aren't wedding photographers and have no interest in being a wedding photographer, maybe there's something there that could apply to a different type of shoot. So we'll start with our personal details. I'm going to go like this because I don't have it memorized. It's up very high, so you see this side of my face a lot. But my first tip for these, and your personal details, in my experience, are best photographed early in the day. I always tell my clients that's the very first thing I'm going to do when I arrive. In fact, I tell them if they get a gold star, if they put a little bit of thought and have them all in like a bag for me, so I don't have to go root around for things. But doing that early in the day and making sure that you allow yourself the time to do these justice, to get there early in the day, I think solves a lot of problems. Once somebody's dressed, you can't shoot any of their stuff anymore because they're wearing it. I think it's very awkward asking people to take off their garter, so you've got to get it before they put it on. This is a rule that I use not just for personal details, but really for anything that we approach that we have control over, which is shooting macro to micro. Now, I'm not talking about lens choice here. I know I'm not talking about using a macro lens. I'm using the word macro in the sense of everything, all the way down to a little thing. And to me, the easiest way to think about that is if you were photographing, say it's a table, right? Say you're at a wedding and you're shooting a reception. There's the table. So shooting macro to micro would mean you start by taking a shot that shows the top of the centerpiece all the way to the bottom of the tablecloth. And then you just slowly move in and get closer and closer and closer until your final shot is the individual flower or the tines on a fork or the ribbon that's tied. And that's how we approach portrait photography too. For those of you who do people or do groups of people, that's the exact same way that we shoot groups of people. Is we start with everybody, head all the way down to their feet with some sky and some water, if we're on the beach, as we usually are, and then we sort of start coming in closer and closer and closer, right? Until the last shot, which is my personal favorite, is everybody leaning together with their heads touching. Because to me, that's my taste, but I've learned if you don't have this one, people aren't happy. Just like Mother of the Brides aren't happy if you don't have something that shows the full tablecloth. So what works for me is following the rule of macro to micro. I have an example next to show of a wedding detail that I think is a great example of shooting macro to micro. This is simply photographing the bride's invitation. There's no extra pieces. This was a tough one to shoot because it was literally just a white invitation and a white envelope. There's no fun frou-frou to play with. But the shot on the bottom is the macro shot. It shows the invitation, it shows lace from the wedding gown, it shows their special stance, everything. And the ones at the top I know are small, are sort of shooting in and starting to focus in more and more detail on the little pieces. And in terms of walking away with being able to say, have I documented this item? It's a good rule. It works for me. It's a great way to know that you're not missing something.
Do you put on a list for them if they have a special stamp to read it for those?
I don't. We do what we call final meetings with our clients. I'm a big proponent of meetings. I think the more talking you can do with somebody, the better. Not just with brides probably, but in sort of all things. But one of the things that we talk about at that final meeting is we go through, are there any really extra special details? And what I say to people is I say, my job is I'm gonna shoot your bouquet. I'm gonna photograph your dress. I'm gonna look around and see what I can find. Is there anything that I wouldn't be able to find? Is there any secrets, anything that's hidden? And that's when things come up, like things sewn on the inside of a wedding dress, or that's when you learn that the handkerchief is actually your great-grandmother's, things that you might not. But it's not a list. I never ask clients to supply me with a list. I just give them the opportunity to tell me and then I write it down.
One more question.
Yeah.
Just because
I love questions.
Do you bring the extra stuff for flat days? I don't.
So glad that you asked this. So I do not bring any styling equipment to a wedding. And we talk about this in the studio. So there's a trend, for those of you who aren't wedding photographers, there's a trend for wedding photographers to carry styling kits with them that have like different color spools of ribbon, like pretty silk ribbons, or what else is in styling kits? I don't know.
The ring boxes.
Little ring boxes, things that they basically can pull out. So if someone gives them 3 kind of underwhelming details, they have all these pretty things that they can put together to make a beautiful shot. I don't, but the reason that I don't is because that's my personal challenge to myself, and I'm going to talk about that when we do the ring shot too. My very favorite thing to do on a wedding day is figure out how to make it work with like what we have. So I don't, simply because I think it's against the spirit of the game. So, which you'll see when we do our ring shot, which we have not prepared for at all. We're literally going to use whatever we can find to do a ring shot, which is kind of how we would approach a wedding day. So, okay. Any other questions? All right. Another thing to think about is to consider the color story when you're photographing the details. Unfortunately, I think many of our clients never go past the digital sort of level of receiving their photos. And I shoot digitally. They receive digital photos. I think that's wonderful. I want them to have them. Post them online. Please credit me, but you know, do whatever you need to do. But we really try to encourage our clients to invest in good old-fashioned wedding albums, because realistically, 50 years from now, our computers are going to be like invisible and have names, and these digital files are not going to matter at all. So I think about the color story, and I think about the album when I'm shooting, is how are these going to look the way they're supposed to ultimately end up in that book that their grandkids are going to find in the attic. So this is a great example. This is from a wedding I photographed this spring sometime. And it's a good example of photographing all of her details in a way that feel very cohesive. You can pull any of these photos out and they'll stand on their own. There's a picture of the ring box, a picture of the earrings and the comb and the shoes and all this fun stuff. Fortunately, she used a cohesive color scheme, which was nice. But all of the other choices, the things that sort of tie it together, are things I did. Like the invitation suite at the top, that blue thing that it's on was a TV stand that was in another room that had to take the TV off and clean it off. But I wanted to use it because it was prettier than wood. There's no wood at her wedding. There's no carpet, you know, there was nothing else that was the right color. The way that you see the reflection in the background of a lot of those photos, which is something I'll talk about when we do our ring shot. I love reflections, I like using mirrors. Those are reflections of her bouquet, and we specifically chose to have those behind the details, because then when you look at the detail, even if it has no color to it, it feels like it's part of her story. And that's something I feel pretty strongly about, in that it's not just making one photo, it's making a story, you know, and part of that story is a color story. Again, this one was not super hard to do it with. Sometimes it is harder. Sometimes there are weddings where there is no clear color story. It's just like some sparkly stuff and some white stuff. That's what you got. And when that's the case, you can still make this happen. I usually default to greenery or wood if that's the case, because every wedding generally has some greenery somewhere, and wood is pretty like not offensive to people. But the idea is no matter what it is, if you look at it all together, it'll look like that. You know, it'll all blend together. Turn the lights off. That's the first thing, Rachel, you can probably attest to this. How many times do you think I said, turn the lights off when you go in the room? Turn the lights off.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot. I think overhead light is like the demon when it comes to photography. I hate it. This is why makeup artists hate me, because I walk in the room and literally start turning lights off. If we were doing a shoot in here, the first thing I would have done is turn off all the lights and open these. And even though it would have been darker, what would have been lit would have been pretty. So I'm a firm proponent of that. With details too, that bouquet picture over on the right is a great example. That was in the corner of a closet. It's not a pretty space. It's a beautiful bouquet, but there's a window. So we were able to sort of utilize that light to make it look more planned and more thought than it would have if we just left the overhead light on. So, okay. Also, and this one is wedding specific. If you shoot weddings, I highly recommend that you do not photograph your details in front of people, because people on wedding days get very nervous about things. And they wonder, what are you doing with my diamond ring? Like, what are you doing with that? Like, where are you taking my dress? Like, isn't that going to wrinkle my veil? And all of these questions that truly in the scheme of things, like the answer is, like, it's really fine. But you can't say that to somebody on their wedding day. So I have a tendency, I'll go in and I'll swoop all the details and we'll literally go find a spot where no one can see us, and we'll close the door, and that's where we'll shoot the details. There are times, depending on the wedding and how many details, where I might be secluded for 45 minutes, just me and details, and Rachel or whoever's second shooting the wedding might be circulating, capturing the hair and makeup and whatever's going on. But I find that it's much easier to be free and much easier to be creative when the person who paid for the thing you're photographing isn't watching you. So, and then finally, this one took me a long time to learn. It's so simple, but I found that with personal details like this, since you're setting it up, or really anything that you're choosing to photograph, that you are deciding where it's going to go, and you're deciding what it's going to look like, I found that once something clicked in my head, that once I get it and I shoot it, I don't just move on to the next thing, I go in a circle around it. And once you change your angle, I found I was able to, instead of starting to get like one shot of the shoes, I can get all these shots of the shoes. And it's one setup, and it took an extra minute of my time. And in terms of being able to maximize my creativity, like I find this very fulfilling. And often it's that secondary or even the third angle that I find that ends up being my favorite. Like in this set, this bottom picture of these very fabulous shoes, which by the way the bride wore for 20 minutes before they made her foot bleed, and she took them off. I looked them up. They cost $1,800. So that's like whatever 1,800 times 2 is per hour to wear. But this was the setup shot down here. That's the safe shot, which is a wedding photography. You have to get a picture of the front of the shoes. My favorite is actually the one right above it. I love the back, I love the reflection, I love the way it's fading off. And everything else is just a detail, and all that is just going in a circle. Good job.
I said I like the one in the upper right, one facing each way.
Where you
I
can
like
see the
that.
front and the back?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Thank you, thank you. So yeah, you just change your angle and it's amazing what you see. I've actually started using this with people too. If I have a bride or a child or a realtor set up for a picture and we take the picture, I started trying to the best of my ability in whatever situation I'm in, to try to circle them. You can't usually get all the way around. And I am shocked time after time how often the thing I wasn't going for ends up being the better angle and the prettier angle. So, any questions? All right, those are personal details. Reception details. There's a few other things to think about here. The main difference between a reception detail and a personal detail, and I think this is a difference that applies to non-wedding photography as well, is personal details you're in control of. You get to decide, this is the light I want to use, this is how I want to style it, this is the angle I want. Reception details, you don't get to. That's photographing anything that you don't have full control over. You're sort of photographing it in situ. And so I think it's a different set of considerations. So we'll talk about this. First, and this I think applies to a lot of situations, it is our job as photographers, I believe, it is our job as photographers to photograph the reality, to photograph what's actually happening. But it's also our job when we are working on commission, which is what we are doing as wedding photographers, when we are working for a person. I think it's also our job to photograph what they wanted something to look like. I think we've probably all walked into situations, whether they're weddings or non-wedding parties or business meetings, where you knew you could see what it was supposed to be, but it wasn't really what ended up happening. You know what I mean? And with weddings, it's almost always because the room is too large. Someone books like a big hall and thinks they're gonna have 250 people show up and there's 70. So you go in and the tables, instead of being close together with all these like lush flowers, are like really spread out. It looks a little sad sometimes. So in a situation like that, the trick I didn't make up this trick, I learned it from someone else. And it's pretty like simple camera stuff, but I shoot those details with a 70-200 at 200. And I do it to compress the background, to bring it forward, because if you can get your right angle and if you have room, and you can really zoom in, and if I had a 300, I'd use that. It really makes the room look like things are much closer together and de-emphasizes how much space is between. If you are primarily a wide angle shooter, if you imagine walking into a room, like this room, this long, that had 3 tables set up, it's the difference between shooting it with a 35, which is gonna make this room look so big and so empty, and shooting the middle table from here with a 200, And you can even like, this is what I look like when I shoot, so I'm gonna do it now. You can even like scoot yourself over so you have a little bit of foreground from the whatever it is that you're shooting in front. It's always a centerpiece for us, and all of a sudden it starts to feel richer, you know, more luxurious, which you know is what the client who's paying you would like it to feel like. So, I try to wait till the lights go down. There's always this mad rush at weddings, and I used to feel this very strongly to, like, after the ceremony, get to the reception really fast before things start. Because I had to photograph all the details before the guests come in, and then I realized that realistically, most photos that I took were prettier when it got dark, and this is a great example. This was a beautiful wedding. There was nothing wrong with this wedding. There's nothing wrong with this photo over here on the right, but it's the same table. It's the same centerpiece. The only difference is this was done with natural light before the sun went down, and this was done with artificial light once it was dark. And I think the one on the right is clearly a better photo. There's no question. It's more intentional, and not only that, this is pretty, but that's actually what it felt like to be there. Because the reception's not happening during the day, it's happening at the night. So that's something that we do now. Sometimes we will still do these daytime sort of runs if we can, especially if it's an especially elaborate wedding that I know is really important to people to have all those details, but we always do a round of what we call nighttime details, where while everybody's dancing, we grab our camera, we grab our light, and we just make the rounds and we shoot it all again. And inevitably those are better. Any questions? Okay. Clean up, this one's pretty obvious, I think, with weddings specifically as the night goes on, like, so to like empty glasses, like trash napkins, salt and pepper shakers. I think it's just common sense that when you're photographing something, just like you try to photograph the room the way the bride wants it to look, you clean up your table before you shoot it. It's very wedding specific, it's pretty obvious, but we clean up rooms too when we walk in. We're inevitably like shuffling things to corners. There's not a bedside table in the land in a room that we've come in that still has anything on top. We have alarm clocks on the floor, and everything in the drawers, you know. And then again, I didn't do any sample pictures for this because it's the same as the nighttime picture, but I find that when you're shooting at night, you can almost find pretty bokeh, almost always find pretty bokeh in the background. It's literally as simple as just turning this way instead of this way. Even in this room, if it were dark, those two lights could make pretty bokeh in the background, and it just makes things more interesting. So far? Yeah?
I'm missing the rehearsal dinner.
The rehearsal dinner? I didn't put anything with people in here. We do shoot rehearsal dinners. And what I find is the details at rehearsal dinners we shoot the same way that we would at a reception. Because it's almost always like a different mother who wants pictures of it, so we try to give it sort of the same care. I didn't do anything with people. Generally something like a rehearsal dinner where people are at a table, it's less post photography. So usually what we'll do is we'll stand in the corner with a 7200 on and zoom in and try to get candidates and people interacting. Did that speak to what your question was? I can talk more about it.
I just think, rehearsal dinners tend to be much more family.
Yeah.
And reception is
It's true. It's true. And I will say that, I don't have any people in this presentation at all. And ultimately, if we deliver 1,000 photos from a wedding, even if we're not shooting a rehearsal dinner, if we deliver 1,000 photos, maybe 150 of them are details without people. All the rest of them are going to be focused on those people, those families, those relationships, those moments. And we would shoot a rehearsal dinner the same way we would at the reception. So.
I was just saying that the receptions are so different from rehearsal dinners are so different from the wedding and the rehearsal.
They are.
Those kind of concatenated, but the other ones always.
They feel much different, and they feel much more, not formal, that's not the right word, but people aren't as loose at a rehearsal dinner. They typically haven't hit an open bar and they're not on hour 3 of dancing. So you don't get quite the same level of candid interaction. But yeah, they're more like an event, rather than a wedding. Yeah.
Do you always have 2 shooters?
We do. That is just a choice that I've made, is for all of our weddings, we always have a second shooter. We don't charge extra for it. It's just rolled into what we do. And that's because I really believe that in order to be able to deliver what I show to people, I need a second shooter. Right? That's really what it boils down to. If I want to have the 45 minutes to shoot the details the way that I show them, then somebody has to be there to shoot whatever else is going on. So we do. Mm-hmm.
And although you don't have people there,
yeah.
you do have just traditional shots.
We do.
And are you shooting, like before the wedding, are you at a church or are you at the home?
Every wedding's a little different. Most of the time, we start our coverage wherever the bride is getting ready, which is typically, more often than not, I'd say it's a rental, like a hotel room. Would you agree with that? Or a beach house, or sometimes it's a family home. Sometimes it's an Airbnb. It's not usually in the church. So we usually start there, and we're usually at whatever that location is for a few hours. And then we move to whatever the ceremony venue is.
Okay. And who's shooting the groom? Are you shooting the groom?
The groom?
At home too?
We do. So typically what we'll do, and unless it's an unusual situation, is say Rachel is my second shooter. The two of us would arrive to wherever the bride is first. Generally, the two of us would be there together for about an hour. I would photograph the details, Rachel would help with the details, photograph candidates, and then she would peel off and go to the guys wherever they are.
So typically, you start how much before the actual wedding?
Sure. If they're not doing a first look, so if it's a traditionally scheduled wedding where the first time they see each other is the ceremony, and what that means is there's no portraits prior, right? Because they don't see each other. If that's the case, we usually arrive 3 hours before the ceremony, probably.
And is that the case when you're at the church too?
Honestly, I don't remember the last time that we shot getting ready at a church. That just doesn't seem to be, I don't know why, in Pensacola, that just doesn't seem to be where people are, which I appreciate. I don't like photographing getting readies in the church, so maybe it's because I say that to people and really try to encourage them to consider somewhere else. And it's simply because the spaces at the church are more often than not as beautiful as a rental hotel room would be. Like yeah, almost always. My favorite is I shot somewhere where it was an exercise room and it was mirrored on 3 sides, so there was nowhere to stand, and the side that wasn't mirrored was floor to ceiling big blue exercise balls. That was my favorite. But you learn there is one church in Pensacola that has a beautiful getting ready area, and when I know someone's getting married there, I make sure they know they can take advantage of that because it's beautiful. But the timeline would be roughly the same. I mentioned earlier doing what we call our final meetings with our clients, which we take pretty seriously. And at that time, I mean, they're like an hour and a half long. Like we go through, and once we ask all these questions to our clients, then we will be able to say, okay, then based on this, based on travel time, based on what you want, this is the time we're arriving. Now we're able to do that because another quirk of the way we do weddings is we don't limit the hours of coverage. So our clients don't, when they choose to work with us, they're not choosing a 6-hour package, an 8-hour package, a 10-hour package. Instead, because we are a multi-photographer studio, they're choosing the photographer. But once they make that determination, we always include unlimited coverage. So.
Okay, so say a person comes in and their date is the same as what you're shooting, would you have that person talk to the photographer that's going to shoot?
Yeah, so I know there's some multi-photographer studios that are like national studios, like I think George Street is one. There was one a few years back, Bella something, which maybe, I don't know, maybe it's still around, where they subcontract out photographers. That is not what we do. All of our photographers are full-time salaried employees of this company. So when someone sends an inquiry for a wedding, what they receive back is information on, these are your 4 options. This is more about each photographer. Here's links to their portfolio. This is the associated cost. Who are you interested in? So if someone wants to work with Tiffany, like I might literally never meet them. They might only meet Tiffany from start to finish. And that way, there's never the case where someone feels like they're working with second best, or they feel like they're not connected to the person that they really have to be connected to.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. It's pretty fun. Any other questions? I love talking about business stuff. That's fun. I almost did a business presentation, but decided to do business stuff. Moving on. All right, ring shots. So we're going to do a live ring shot demonstration in just a minute. So I don't have much to show you here. I'll just kind of run through just some things that I've learned. I like ring shots. They're one of my favorite details to do because they are literally the only thing on the entire wedding day that I have 100% creative control over. There's literally no consideration. I'm not going to hurt your rings, like nothing's going to happen to them. Your flowers aren't going to die because they're in the sun. Yeah, I mean, it's perfect. Like I can do them whenever too. I can do them in the morning. I can go up to you at the reception and ask to borrow your rings. which always gets a good laugh. I mean, whenever I have time, and they're fun. So that's why we're going to talk about this. So I guess I already said the first thing, you can do these whenever you want on a wedding day. Sometimes I prefer doing them at the reception because there reaches a point in a 4-hour reception where it's the same 16 people on the dance floor, you know, and you're just kind of standing there with this look on your face. Just waiting for something to happen, looking nice and pleasant.
And the little sway music.
Exactly, exactly. So I find that that's a great time to do ring shots. There's also, I like sparkles, as evidenced by this one. There's always lots of sparkles to find at a reception, so that's fun. But if they happen to have all the rings before, I'll do it. This one was actually photographed before the ceremony. All that sparkle is just the little belt that the bride wore. That's what that is, just her belt that I did something with. Sparkles. Give yourself plenty of time. I mean, again, it goes back to the creative control. Like, there's no need to rush through a ring shot, you know? Again, wait and do it later and take your time. And I just spoke to this earlier, Candace, when you asked my question about do I carry anything, and the answer is I don't. I do have a formula for a ring shot, which we're going to talk about, and I'm hopefully going to try to use based on what I can find here today. But I don't carry anything for it. Again, I'm just trying to find what we have, and we have funny stories about the things that we found. So this is my formula. This is a lot of people's formula, so I want to be very clear. I did not invent this. This is just what works for me. I find a reflective surface, something that's interesting in the background. My preference is sparkly things. I don't see any sparkly things in here, so unless somebody happens to have like a fun sparkly wallet or purse or something, we're gonna have to get really creative. But if there's no sparkles, then we look for something else interesting with texture or composition, and then directional light. Like, I would never use just this light for rings. If you imagine like a jewelry ad, like your eye goes, in the way that jewelry is photographed, it's because your eye goes straight to that big diamond, or straight to whatever they're drawing you to. Some of that sure is composition, but I think most of that is lighting, so we try to mimic that. I'm not actually going to turn off the lights because I don't know how, but I think that we will be able to overpower them. I think it's okay. I don't think anybody needs to go looking for lights. I appreciate that, but I think we're okay. But if it causes a problem, then we'll revisit it. And that's really how we approach ring shot. That's what we do. So I've never done a live shoot before. I've never really tethered my camera before, so this is all very exciting. So bear with me when certainly the technology doesn't work. Rachel, you want to see if we can? Okay.
You want to try my ring?
I do. I need a ring. I do. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, that is beautiful. This is good. Thank you. That's my test shot of Rachel. It's a little underexposed. Does anyone have any ear questions? Okay. Well, what I'm going to be shooting this one with, and if you have them, please feel free to ask about settings if you're ever interested, or lens choice, or why this or why that. I'm happy to talk about it. I should have led with this, but when it comes to questions like that, I have never taken a photography class. I am fully self-taught, and what that means is that when people have questions, I'm really good at answering them because I don't know how to answer them in a complicated way because I made it up. So ask away, bring it on. My first diffuser was literally like a stack of cocktail napkins that I put over a flash during a dance. So please ask away. I promise, like, I will not talk above you because I don't have it.
How about setting the ring in front of a glass of water?
We're definitely going to use a glass, I think for sure. All right, are we detected yet? You might just need to shut light ring after you open it. I'm putting your ring right here. It's going to be fine, I promise. I will say I don't take rings outside ever. This is my rule. Because at my third wedding ever, those of you who shoot weddings, at your third wedding ever, you like literally don't stop taking pictures. You don't know what you're doing, you don't know how it's going to work, and you feel like you have to deliver like everything. So I took these rings outside to a courtyard and we lost them. It took 45 minutes to find them. We literally had to run down the street. This was in downtown Charleston. We were checking cuffs of men who had walked by like while we were shooting. It was awful. So rings stay inside. So your ring is safe. Pardon? One was, we were in like a garden area and I had set them up. This was so stupid. Don't ever do this. I had set them up on like a hydrangea swag that was hanging from like a gate. It was totally dark outside. I didn't know what I was doing. But I set up the rings like I'd seen other photographers do it, and someone walked by and hit the swag and the rings went like this. We found 2 of them. The third one is the one we couldn't find. After 45 minutes, we found it where you would have expected it, buried in the dirt of one of the flower beds. But I swear we dug up that entire thing before we found it. So all is well in the world, that they don't go outside. Okay, so I think that we're set up here. Okay, so the first step, oh, that just made me so happy, the lights just went out. I like it. I'm going to be shooting, my primary camera, I shoot with Nikon. I'm not a Nikon Canon person though, I really don't care. I shoot with Nikon because my first camera was a Nikon, so that's what my lenses are. Half of our studio shoots Canon, half of it shoots Nikon, nobody shoots Sony, sorry, I shoot Sony. But I'm going to shoot with my D5. This is actually not my D5, this is a loaner D5 because after almost 400,000 shutter actuations, I had to send it in. So Nikon was nice enough to send me a fresh, clean one, so I get to shoot with that today, which is great. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm shooting with my macro lens. I use a, perfect. I just need this one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, so 105. I don't know what else there is to say about macro lens. This is my macro lens. Okay, so the first thing that we need is a reflective surface. We discussed whether or not we should bring things with us for the sake of demonstration, but much like on a wedding day, I felt like that was against the spirit. So you guys are gonna watch whatever happens, I don't know. We've looked around the room and these are the things that we have considered. We considered a plate, which we have done before. This plate will be a terrible plate because of the lip and with ring shots. I find that I'm more successful when I'm able for my lens to be on exactly the same level as the diamond. And with this lip, if I put the ring here in the middle to get the reflection, I won't be able to see it. So then we flipped it over, and unfortunately there's a lip on the bottom too, and writing, which is really rude of these people, whoever made this, so we can't use the plate. The best we could come up with in this room would be the bottom of a glass of water. And we have done bottoms of glasses before. It's flat. I'm not going to dump it because it's full of water. But it's flat on the bottom. There's no lip, there's no ridges, there's no writing. Well, there might be a little bit, I feel it now, but nothing that we couldn't clone out. So this is an option. I don't love the bottoms of glasses because they're not very large. So we went on an adventure around the restaurant and we did find something which is very, you want to go get it? Go that way. Yeah. It's very typical of what we would do on a wedding day. The perfect surface is an actual mirror or a big piece of glass. So on wedding days, we'll often take framed pictures. There's always framed pictures, and we'll take the picture out and just use the glass, and then we'll put it back together. I've used my phone before, which works. The phone's kind of small, so you're kind of limited in how you're able to compose. But we also take things off of walls. So we're going to take the mirror from the bathroom. Okay? Perfect. Maybe I can close the door again.
Working with criminals.
I know, y'all don't tell. Okay? So we're gonna use this. This is a good mirror because it's big. There is a lip on it, which I wish there weren't. I wish it were flat, but you know, when you steal mirrors off of bathroom walls, you can't have everything. Okay. Oh, I forgot I'm tethered. It's okay, your ring is still safe.
You need a longer cord.
I do, I really do.
Mama price.
I told you,
Cheap.
today is my first day tethering and I'm learning all sorts of things. Okay.
And I think Brad's got me onto that. I haven't used it yet.
Camry?
It's like the one that, Heather's.
Case Air or something like that?
Yeah,
I have that one, but
yeah.
it's not as friendly
Really?
as the Camry.
Well, I had just have
Well, I got the case there.
I like it?
Used it yet. Oh, no, I played with it. I haven't used it yet because I was stressed at my last shoot, so I
Yeah.
wanted to practice at home.
with new stuff. I'm with you. I should do that one time. I should practice tethering before I'm in front of a group of people.
But the Mama Price has longer cords. That's what I've been using
Okay.
at my schools.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we have our reflective surface. We have our beautiful ring. What I want to do is really, we talked in the car on the way. Rachel and I probably shot 200 weddings together. Like, we've done a lot. And we were talking on the way over about realistically on a wedding day, how this would actually go, because that's kind of what I want to mimic. And generally we start with a safe ring shot. Sometimes the safe ring shot has sparkles and sometimes it doesn't. I think in the interest of just showing some variety, I'm going to start by just trying to do a pretty classic ring shot that's branded for the way we shoot, but isn't too fancy. So I want to take a pretty picture like a jewelry shot with pretty light and just a simple black background. So what I need is something like about this high. Like a purse or, No, not even that high. Does anyone just have like a little bag? I guess I have a purse. I could have used mine.
is.
I'm gonna use Candace's. That's fine. Perfect.
If it'll stay as high as you
Well, I think it'll be fine. I'm gonna zip it though, because I'm not gonna steal anything. No stealing rings, no stealing purses. So what I'm
You'd
trying
be disappointed if.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna shoot, I sit in a chair when I shoot ring shots because I have a terrible back and I wanna be on the same level, so the sit down is great. I'm gonna shoot this way. And what I'm trying to do, because I know I'm gonna be shooting to get the reflection as well, is I want the background to be a solid black. Because by doing that, I can make it look like this was shot in a studio, even though it's clearly been shot on a hot, I usually use my little jacket. That might work though, and then I don't have to take my jacket off. Let's see. So when picking your fabric, my only concern about this, and I won't know until I see it, is you can see sometimes the grain in this, and this is just a real simple jersey. Let's try it. If we see if there's a sheen, then I'll switch. Okay. We're getting there. And please ask questions if you have them as we go. I think that'll work. I think that'll work just fine. Okay, the other factor here is light. I find that with ring shots, I either like direct some, not like this, this is still too diffused for what I want, but it's actually pretty bright. Or we use this little guy, my ice light, which is really an overpriced incandescent fluorescent light that Jerry Yonis sells and people spend lots of money for. But it's this, I love it. You can adjust how bright it is. If you get really fancy, you can get barn doors for it if you don't want light spillover. I am not really fancy, so I do not have that. Yes,
How long
Brad?
does that light typically last?
I've never had it run out at a wedding.
Really?
I think it's rated for like 90 minutes, but I don't use it continuous light. I use this specifically for wedding details. And then I use it for the reception details, like those nighttime reception details that have that directional light. It's almost always this. I used to use an off-camera flash, but I find that this is much more mobile, and then I don't have to move my lights, and we can just carry this around and hit it wherever we want and move past it. But this, to me, is my secret. So, you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is this gonna reach? No idea. Okay. Can you slide it that way just a little so my cord can be on this side? All right, perfect. Okay, I have not done the test shot. I have not set up my camera at all. I'm going to talk through what I'm doing. I like the look of a creamy background. That's one of the hallmarks of our style. So when given the opportunity, I will shoot as wide open as I can, except on ring shots. Because on ring shots, if your diamond isn't in focus, your ring shot sucks. So I usually start, I don't know, maybe F9 is maybe where I'll start with the ring shot. Let's look. Let's start thinking. All right, so I'm looking at composition first. I want to see if that black will work. Rachel, can you close that, actually? I think it's more, kind of defeats the purpose here of what we're trying to do. Much better. Okay, and if you can not, yeah, just stand right here so you're not blocking, but if you'll hit the diamond that way. Oh, this is going to be pretty. You're going to have a pretty picture of your ring. Okay?
I think
So,
it feathered died.
Did it? Oh. All right, let's detect.
It just did.
I'll shut. Whatever you need to do. It did this earlier when we didn't shoot fast enough. All right. Okay, perfect. All right. Can you get a little more directionally on the diamond? Get a little closer? Yeah. Now maybe a little further. All right, I'm gonna try one, you guys. I can't believe it. You're gonna see my like actual test shot here. I didn't really think through this element of this. I think it's a little bright. No, that's okay. That's okay. All right, will you get more light on the diamond for me? Like down like that. Okay, we're getting there. There we go. I think that's a pretty solid ring shot. I think it's exposed properly. I can't see it very well, but yeah, I think that works. So we would always start with something like this, which is pretty simple. I mean, literally it was a napkin, a purse, and a mirror stolen from the bathroom. But it looks fancy. Do you know what I mean? It's a nice shot. Then we would try to sort of step it up a notch. We'd try to make it whatever the wedding is. So if it was fancy, does anybody have anything sparkly here? By any chance? We have no sparkles. All right.
Just personalities.
I know. All photographers wearing black. We could do. We'll try salt and pepper. Let's do sugar. I've never used salt and pepper shakers before, so this could not work 100%. Are you guys okay with that? As long as no one will judge me if salt and pepper shakers don't work.
If it works, it works.
If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we're never going to discuss this again. Okay. So let's look at this. Oh, I don't know, you guys. All right, let's try just more peppers. I've never been able to successfully use silver here.
What about a glass of ice?
We have done ice before, and ice will work. It doesn't sparkle,
Will that work?
but it does.
That's not mine, it's my fault.
Yes. Whose is this?
That should.
I like this. Okay, now I feel like I've committed to the peppercorns though, so let me at least see what we can do here, but this is definitely a better option, everybody. Okay. I don't know about this, you guys. This does not feel very successful.
There's no pressure.
Okay, so the unknown here, and I think it's probably not going to work, but the unknown here is what this pattern on the glass is going to do when the light hits it. Like, that's the question. That's why something sparkly is easier, because we all know what sparkly things do when the light hits it. They sparkle. Peppercorns, no idea. So let's, oh, no camera detected again.
Is this on?
Oh yeah, I turn my camera off excessively.
I do
think,
too.
Do you? Yeah.
Drives me nuts. I get ready to take the next shot, and I turn the camera on.
Oh, I flip it on and off in between shots.
I know,
It's crazy.
I know.
Sorry, Rachel. I think that's probably what causes the problem. I will try not to do that. But that's also why I shoot a wedding on one camera charge, one battery. Okay, we ready?
So the actual.
We're about to get a real peppercorn.
Straight to you.
That's different.
Okay. Okay, now let's work with it then. So this is going to be compositional, right? It's not going to give us any fun sparkle, but it's kind of an interesting composition. What circle do we see? That was a stupid thing to say. The answer was circle. The question was, what shape do we see? Circles. What else is circular? A ring. Okay, let's do this. This is like good real life stuff. I like this. Okay, so we have circles here. Let's go head on. Let's see what your ring can do here. All right?
Your camera is the detective.
Because I turned it off.
Oh.
I told you I literally can't stop myself. All right, let's back on. Can't stop myself. Okay. looking for here is if we can do something with composition, with circles.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to share another tip or trick, which I would never do with you here watching me use your ring, nor do I need to. But most of the time rings won't actually stand up. So gum works really well. If you just chew some gum and get a little piece and stick it under, it holds the ring straight. I will not do that to your ring. But that's another reason why you should shoot these in private.
That's what I was about to ask. If you, what is it, the wax, the dental wax, or there's some little clear
That would be
something
Jackie wax.
much more sanitary than my option, which is literally just chewing gum. That was a great idea, Candace. I
There's
should
some
just
little putty.
carry
There's some
that.
putty.
Office
You can use.
stores too.
Yeah, it's like
You get it
a
at Hobby
clear
Lobby.
white putty something.
Well,
You
these
get
are
it at
great
I
Hobby
keep
ideas.
Lobby.
meaning to get it.
I've learned
and
something
then I never
too.
do. I don't think about it.
Okay, let's try it. You ready, Rachel?
Yeah, you want to write some stuff?
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, this is kind of cool, actually, guys. There we go. Okay. We're almost at something interesting here. I think the peppercorns are too close to the ring. I know that we all know what they are, but I think they look like what they are. So I'm going to try one more thing, and then we're going to move on. I'm going to push them further back and just see if I can like blur them a little bit more so it's still circular, but it's not quite like, are those peppercorns? Okay, let's go like that. Okay, let's try one more time. Oh.
You're still trying.
Candace, this is where that mirrorless would come in use.
Yes.
See if that's any better. It's still pretty round, isn't it?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
That was good, but you took these and rotated them.
Sure, do it. Let's do it.
This-
Let's try it. All right, let's do it. Yeah, it definitely, you're right. Because I think it changed the reflection on them. It made them look less uniform.
It's pretty awesome.
I think it works. I think it works. Now, I would probably do one or two more because we're an actual wedding day, but I think we all get the idea. I might see if I could center, like I was trying to, and I didn't quite get it because of the rim of the mirror. There was a little more time. I was trying to get the ring to split one of the circles kind of in the middle like the Olympics. So I could spend a little more time on composition, making that work. I might also try to do something where the ring was perfectly centered in one of the circles. In fact, let's do that one real fast and then we'll move on. It's going to drive me crazy if I don't try it. Okay. Let's try this. All right, you ready? Oh, it's this that's killing me.
You got a camera in the car.
You don't get anything for your stolen mirrors these days. I don't think it's going to be what I wanted. I wanted it to be on the top one, but I can't get it on the top one, so I tried to center it on the bottom. I don't know, you guys. I think that's kind of cool. I think I could deliver that with pepper chickers. It's not my favorite.
She got the circle reflection, so.
Yeah. Okay, let's do one more. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Good. We don't have any sparkles, so we're going to do, oh, I wanted to do the phone case. Oh, we're going to do two more. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll do the phone case real fast because I think that will work. Beautiful phone case. I don't think it's going to sparkle, but I do think it's going to give us a reflection, which is kind of cool.
Anybody got chewing gum?
Right. I carry it in my bag. There we go. All right. Also, if you happen to be on a wedding day, I mean, this can apply to anything that you want to shoot, but you would have typically 3 rings to work with, so you could do other sorts of compositions, which is something we're not doing today. So I'm getting a weird reflection from the window behind me that I don't know if I'm gonna, I don't think we're gonna be able to close it anymore. Yeah, I think it's gonna be screwed. Okay. which would probably be enough for me on a wedding day to say, this isn't working. I get very flustered when it doesn't work. Let's do it. Light her up. I haven't turned off my camera now for 3 times.
Oh,
Let me just hold it.
there's.
Well, let's do a vertical one just for fun. Any more light on the diamond? Just the diamond. More. Let's start. Let's do one more time.
Oh, yeah, that shows some of the
Yeah.
areas.
I would probably stop there because I like the rainbow. That's what I was trying to get when, oh, I turned my camera off. But I think you just crop the corners out of that, and I think that's interesting. Okay, let's do one more. Good phone case.
You ever do that, like, rooms or anything else?
Yeah, usually we'll have all 3. And it's fun if you have all 3, you do, like one of my favorite sets is you can do like the groom's ring, because it's typically a little bigger, down like this, and you can wedge the bride's ring this way and shoot straight down, which is no reflection, but it gives you the idea of doing an interesting like downward composition, which is kind of fun. Any questions? All right, let's do one more and then we'll be done. Is that okay? Do we have time? It's okay? All right. So this is one that we've done before. This is kind of a standby that we'll use if we really have nothing, which is just using water, which we're going to put on my mirror. I think I need a helper. Candace, will you help?
Yeah.
So, water's kind of fun. Because you can pool it around. I'm going to put some water on, but then I'm going to have you like splatter water.
Okay.
Okay. I should have asked if it was okay if I get your ring wet. It's fine. Thank you. I'm not in private. I'm breaking one of my rules. Okay. I think I'm going to start just like this. Light her up for me.
See, sorry.
Do your camera, turn your,
Oh, it's good. Oh, it's good. Oh, my mouse is broken.
Oh, it's
Sometimes you
Is it good?
Actually, Candace, well, no, let me take a touch on my lights right now. I'm just checking exposure right now. I think that this is going to be dark, but y'all bear with me. I'm going to be lazy and just see. Oh, look what you just did, Brad.
I'm fancy.
This is very fancy. I like it. Okay. All right, I'm going to do one more, get my exposure right now. We'll go. Just, yeah, right in the light one. Perfect. I think it might be 2 right now, but yeah. All right, one more. So water is fun because it makes your own reflective surface. That's probably about right.
Ever thought about floating your little dab of oil on top of the water? To get rainbow?
Ooh, I've never thought about that, but we should try that. I bet they have oil here.
You need some kind of very thin oil.
Oh, I like this.
Olive oil, that'd be cool.
Okay, Candace, let's do water first. So this works better with a water bottle, like a squirty bottle. But for a variety of reasons, I think we should be slightly more controlled today, mostly because of my camera and the computer and the mirror. So what I want is I want to get a picture of water splattering. Probably the easiest way is if you just fill the straw up, hold it up here, and then when I say go, let it go. It just needs to be pretty high so it splatters. And I want it to hit right behind the ring. Got it? We're not even going to practice. We're just going to do it. All right, give me just a second. Get all set here. Okay? Yeah. Oh, I took 3. I don't know what that's going to do with... What is it going to do?
I like that.
Can we go back? Ooh, that's cool.
It landed in front.
Okay, let's do it one more time. And this time, A little bit further back? Okay, it was good splatter though. Okay, hold on. Okay.
Oh, I think that was, might have been afterwards.
Cool.
Yeah, the click
Maybe
happened.
one more. I think that we should count, oh, that's neat. Okay, let's do one more. This time, let's see if we can angle it. I don't know if this is, you know what, I don't know if this, we can use this, probably the straw's the best. Let's see if we can get it to hit this way.
All right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm okay with my cord getting wet.
Okay.
It's clearly the wrong cord anyway.
Okay.
Yeah? Will that work?
Fine. Yep.
Okay, will you count for me this time? Go 1, 2, 3. Good, so I'm ready? Okay, let's get all set here. And manual focus on ring shot, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
See if we got anything here. It's okay. Okay, so you get the idea, right? You could do this 12 times for like one killer shot. There is one more thing. I think I'm good now.
Okay.
Thank you. Once you have all this water on your stolen mirror, I'm trying not to see that one.
You want to try some oil?
Pardon?
You want to try some oil?
Yeah, I totally do. This is so fun. Pepper, oil. All right, I'll set this here. Okay, before we do the oil, one easy thing you can do with the water that Rachel and I actually discovered at a wedding together one day is you can just move the water, like move it across, and you get like a totally different look. You want to try? Actually, Candace, maybe I do need you. Okay. We did it with a water bottle, if I remember correctly. How did we do that? Like that. I just want you to. We just want to move the water.
Like
I think
while you're
it's gonna,
shooting?
yeah, it's gonna have to go from over here though.
If you,
I have an idea. Hold on.
if you put the camera on continuous shoot,
Uh-huh.
and it would take like maybe, my camera, as long as I hold the
Yes.
shutter
Yeah.
down, it will take. If you started taking the pictures before she did the water.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I never thought about using continuous shoot here. You ready? I just want.
I'm going to blow it.
Oh, this is very fancy. All right, let me get all set here. This one's a new one, guys. Okay, you don't have to count because I'll see it. There you go. Yeah, that did exactly what I wanted. Okay. You start getting really cool variation and insulation. Oh, I like these. Okay, cool. So that worked. Okay, let's try the oil. Do I still have time? I'm sorry. Once I get going with this, I can just keep going and going. Maybe we'll end with the oil. Is that okay? Okay. Since this was your idea with the oil, do you have a vision? Do you have a certain vision? Like, do you want it of the oil pouring? Like a stream of it? Or do you want the oil separating?
Oh, I was just thinking about the oil floating on the water will give you,
As a different type of
can give you
reflection?
rainbow colors.
Let's try it.
That was a big hippie thing back in the day.
I didn't know that oil did that. I'm excited about this. This is going to be new.
But they would put it on an overhead projector
Really?
and then use other things to give swirling colors in the background.
So oil will reflect a rainbow?
Of course, I've read about all this.
Let's see here.
I was too young back then.
Of course. All right, I'm just going to take a picture to see what the oil does in the light. I'm not seeing color in my lens. Hold on. Let's see. You do get drops though. Okay, I'm going to do something I don't do, which is shoot down, just to see if the oil will do something different. You ready?
It'll be a lot easier to put the ring back on now.
You have to watch it lose all the way home.
Sometimes it's.
Well, that's just confusing almost. It's like a ring dinosaur.
That's awesome. That's different.
How can we make that even better? Let's see. What's the problem with this picture? You're not gonna hurt my feelings. There's a problem with it.
If you backlit it, you might get more out of the oil, but you don't have the light.
Okay, let's try it. Can I borrow someone's cell phone with a flashlight?
Yeah. You got one?
We'll still use ice light on the front. Do you mind backlighting it? Yeah. Okay. Candace, move it a little bit more toward the wall. There you go. Oh, I see you in it. That's kind of fun. I don't know, because this is not, it's a different lighting for sure. This is probably going to be overexposed. I didn't change any of my settings. Let's do one more. Change my settings. Can you guys see the, no, you can't see it. Does anyone want to know camera settings? Is that interesting or no?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, I'm shooting at f9. My ISO is 2500. My shutter speed is 800 right now on that shot.
What was your ISO?
2500.
You usually shoot pretty high on your ISO, run away.
Yeah, I do.
I notice your photos are always kind of airy.
Yeah, and it's unusual because I know typically a high ISO shooter is not also using artificial light. I always use artificial light. I'm not an ambient light shooter. Like, I mean, never, ever, ever. Once it gets dark, there's always either an ice light or I usually will set up 3 or 4 off-camera flashes. But I use ISO. I even use ISO in the bright sunlight. Like even at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if I can get the sun a little bit behind someone, I might go to ISO 800. And then just make the other adjustments to try to manage that light in the back, just to bring something back out of the shadows. Yep. I didn't until I started shooting with this camera. This camera like changed the way I shoot in terms of ISO, just because it can handle it. And I think modern cameras can, you know. So yeah.
So do you shoot JP?
I don't. I shoot raw. I shoot raw always. And
yeah. Cool on this, sorry. That's brighter and
is it how
it's warm.
I was curious how the TV. Oh, it's definitely better on the computer screen. It's crisper and warmer, and it's not so blue.
It shows the gold in the ring too.
Yeah, it's for sure better than here.
Yeah,
I agree. I think I'm probably done with the ring. I mean, we can keep going with ring shots, but at some point, that's how we do ring shots. Any questions that came up? I'm gonna clean the oil off for you.
Needs cleaning.
Does anyone else want a picture of your ring and oil? Well, then I guess that's the end. That's all I got.
Thank
So,
you.
it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Now, can I have some of these?
Yeah. Would you like your purse back? Can I use your napkin to clean up? Is that okay?
Go for it.
Oh, the oil is making us a little. I don't think they're gonna love me there.
You'll be gone before they know.
Exactly. Never to return.
There's some soap in the
You
bag.
need some paper napkins? I think so. Yeah. I don't think the oil's the problem. I don't know if you have more business. We can pause and do this later too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
Yeah, do your thing.
Awesome. That was great. I don't know about y'all, but I think I know what I'm gonna do when I get back home and try some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Really amazing. We just got a couple things to go over, then we can go into the photo share. First thing is for all you guests today, we're kind of reorganizing, and we're getting on Facebook. We're bigger. Thank you, Candace, for doing that. Getting a better presence on Facebook. And also we have a new website, GulfCoastPPA.net. So we're kind of reorganizing, trying to get more into this century or actually this decade. So getting our name out there, and we love for all you guests to come back again. And we our reorganization, we had redefined some of the memberships of the club, and we are a professional organization and kind of geared towards professional photographers, but and we're associated with the Professional Photographers of America. We're I guess, a chapter or guild of that organization. But we changed our bylaws and to try to get the photography industry in this area kind of going again. And we would love to have new photographers come in, and whatever skill level you may be. So we created a category of aspiring members, which you don't have to be a business member. You just have to want to come and be a part of the P.P.A. and the Gulf Coast P.P.A. to learn some of the stuff that was presented today. I mean, it was an awesome class, and we do stuff like that to promote photography and better our profession. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you.
I have some new member forms, if anyone.
The cost for aspiring members is $25 a year, which is a good cost for programs like this. And we do something every month, from ranging from lighting to what we did today. Groups discussions, maybe some field trips, in some what do you call them? We did a couple months ago. We did a field trip and we had a instructor.
Like a shootout?
Okay. Shootout, yeah. We have shootouts and we try to present our skill and get some ideas for everybody. That's that. The next thing is the venue. With our reorganization, we're trying different places. So I guess the members, what do you think about this location here? Everybody, I think it's great. I think.
Perfect for me.
Yeah, me too. I live right across the road there.
It's a nice location. I don't see any negatives with it.
Yeah.
The only thing, we can't darken the windows, but we got a TV, so it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, yeah,
That's insignificant.
yeah. I think this is a location, and maybe if anybody has any objection, maybe we continue meeting here. Anybody have any objections of doing that? And we'll put out an email and ask the rest of the members if this may be a location. But the food would be great. The service is great, and I think the space itself is kind of conducive to a business meeting. So other than that, does any of the members have anything new?
Did you want a treasure?
Sorry? Ida?
Did you want a treasure?
Yes, come on.
I went to the trouble to do it. Okay, in the bank, we have $617.43. We have $313.47 in PayPal, which I was trying to switch $200 into our business, a regular checking account, and for some unknown reason, this morning it wouldn't let me do it. So I usually try to only keep about $100 in it. But they've changed some of the things and they're asking questions. So Jim, you and I may need to talk about why it's asking, why I couldn't just transfer it over. And when I went to just transfer, it says they were having a problem, try later. So they were asking for an employee number, and I don't think we have that. For some unknown reason, it was asking.
That's right. We just
Talk about that.
yeah. Who has that number? I've asked
Hey, what
our EIN.
that we don't have one because we don't have any employees.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as a nonprofit organization, we have to have
I've
one
never seen one.
because when we do the was it 1099?
No, it's a simpler version. It's a postcard. I don't remember the number.
Right.
It just says we don't do $50,000 worth of business, so we
Right.
don't have to file taxes.
Yeah, but as a nonprofit, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to have I don't remember what they call it, FIN or I call it an EIN. Yeah. So we'll figure that one out. Right now, what we're going to do is go through the photo share, and the photo share is just images of things that we've done since the last meeting, and we kind of critique and kind of give ideas, and maybe it'll spawn an idea of yourself and what you can do, you know. Brad?
Hazel, is that your HDMI cord?
It's not, it's here, so you feel free to just unplug it from my laptop.
Okay, thank you.
So with the ones that are from the photo club, it's like the photo share, and you'll have themes. We just kind of present what we did, and kind of tell a little story about it, what the certain shoot was and all that kind of stuff. So. All right, Brad, it's all yours.
So like Lou was saying, I'm going to try to maximize this one there. What Lou was saying is basically what we try to get everybody to do is to participate and share some photos of basically the work you've been doing over the last month, if you've been shooting lately. If not, you can always post something that's one of your favorite photos. You don't necessarily have to ask for critique, but if you want some input on your photo, please ask for it. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of show and walk through. We always ask for typically 1 to 3 photos. Don't put any more than that because we don't want to see your whole portfolio. We just want to get a taste of what you've been doing lately. So normally not all of us participate. We always want everybody to participate, like I always say, over and over and over, but I'm going to go ahead and show, I don't know whose or what in what order and all that, so I don't know whose photo this is, I guess would be my main thing I'm saying here. So whose is this? If you want to talk about it a little bit, kind of tell us what about the photo. Whose shot is that?
It's not mine.
Anybody here? Oh, really? Okay, so.
Let's stir it up.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I mean, it looks better, of course, on the screen here than it does up there, but it's not a good shot. I just don't know who it is. So I'm going to move on.
Yeah. That one's mine. Just a headshot. Guy wanted for his business page. Came in and we did it probably within 5 minutes. It was out the door.
Much better on the
Yeah.
screen than it's TV.
Just regular 3-point lighting. Nothing special.
Did you do any retouching to him?
A little bit with softening the skin. He's a former paratrooper Army guy, so he's a little rough.
Try to
What was
soften
your
him up a little bit.
lighting placement? Was that a light on each side?
Let's see, one big softbox on the left of him, hair light and background light. Pretty much, that's pretty much it.
Is there a reflector on this
Reflector,
side?
yeah, on that side. Just a foam core
That
board.
eye.
Okay.
That one's mine too. Did a headshot shoot at the hospital. I probably had like 5 minutes to shoot this guy to come into the break room, set up, take a shot, and he was out the door. Kind of a life as a portrait photographer.
Good job with the glasses.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some reflection on his right
It's
eye.
not my eyeball.
But it looks realistic, and like she said, that mess up the eyeball.
All right, this one's mine. I usually don't shoot kids. I will shoot a newborn and some children, but once they turn 1 year old, not for me. It's not my thing. This kid turned 1 year old because I've been shooting him since he was a newborn. So they set up this little, we did some shots inside, but this is probably the last shoot I do for them. But he's kind of a little ham. You'll turn it on and off, so you have to be ready. But took it out in front of their front yard underneath the magnolia trees. So.
Do you not find
Natural
children to
light.
be profitable?
I don't shoot enough of them. I'm not the giggly, funny,
What you
animated guy.
need is an assistant.
What's that?
You need an assistant. You take the picture.
Usually the parents will be the ones that'll do all that, because that's more their thing, and he's going to react to them. Is what I find.
He's getting his walking papers.
What's
I
that?
said he's getting his walking papers.
Yeah,
He's not
pretty
coming
much,
back.
because it's not my thing to shoot. But right, so this is mine. This is one I took. I shot the World Series for baseball for Babe Ruth a couple weeks ago. I just like this photo because of where the ball is on the bat. I have never gotten that before, and I've shot hundreds of thousands of photos.
You glued it on?
Huh?
You glued it on there?
Yeah, he did. It's hard. That's hard to get. I got the ball in contact, but I never got one squished on.
That's great.
So I haven't shot. So anyway, that's that one.
The ball
That's
is
probably a 1/8,000th of a second as fast as I could shoot it. I think my ISO was like 800 or 1250 because I was on the shadow side of it. But that's wide open at 2.8 with a 300. Right.
This is mine. You can critique it.
Well, tell us about it. Tell us about it.
The young lady is an archer, and this year she has won an enormous amount of awards, like of the year, archer from different places that she's been offered. She's offered scholarships. I will tell you that the one shot through you find her over there?
That's my favorite.
Now I'm doing this I did this as a special for them to have on the wall. But Mom said the bubble in the level has to be in the middle. And of course, when you're shooting it, you're not paying attention, so I did have to move the bubble to the middle. I was shot outdoors, and as you all know, outdoors is not my forte too well. I'd have liked to have thrown the background out more, but I haven't got that.
My only suggestion is the inset in the center blocks the bow, and I'm sure she's got a lot of money invested in the bow. So it would be nice to just rearrange the inset pictures so you can see more of the bow.
I could. Before I have it printed, I will probably, this will be about a 10 by 24. And Mom and I will talk about it. I had different edges around the other two. They're very rustic in their home. Mom and Dad met in Alaska, and they used to live in Alaska. So I'm having a hard time finding a frame that it will kind of go with their home. You're not going to put a traditional frame on it. It has to be kind of rustic, but not too rustic. So we haven't made a final decision, but I thought I'd throw it in. I could bring that down. I could bring it down more so you'd actually see the arrow and bring the other one up. Kind of bring the middle one down, and then bring that, and you can see it. Of course, now she has another new bow.
Oh, of course. They shoot her in there. All right, I'm going to move on. Is that yours too?
Yes, almost Sanders. That's about a year old or something that I was trying to find something. Just comment on it, tell me.
Looks like he's leaning backwards to
Instead of forward.
yeah, change the tilt a little bit. There's nothing that would.
He was leaning, I had him leaning, kind of
Yeah.
leaning on that. Just trying to do, but I see what you say. If he'd have brought his arm out a little bit, that he's leaning on, that would have made him look, more like he's leaning forward.
What lens was used for that shot?
I have no idea. You know me.
The black one?
Yeah, that'd have been the one I was using, the black one.
I don't know. It's the one I use all the time.
Who did that one?
Huh?
Who's this?
Mine,
That's yours too?
yes.
I like the smoke.
Now, she is on the team at the University of South Alabama. She had a scholarship. She's been playing soccer since I got home. Like, yeah.
Very cool.
What is the simulated smoke? What is that?
It comes with the thing I have.
Okay.
You know, I have,
So it's a digital add-on?
yeah.
Okay.
I use some of Ash Design, things. Whenever she has a sale for $5, I'll go through and see if I like something. And the smoke came with it.
All right, I'm gonna move on. I've got to leave in about 5 minutes, so I'm gonna kind of hurry through these. That's why I keep looking down things like on here.
That's pretty. That's pretty.
Your shot's out.
I did.
Pictures?
It's her, so the bride's colors were red, and, those are her red that she had all. Her bouquet was one of those, like, she had fake flowers and some of the jewels in the flowers and stuff, and the getting ready house was not good. It's some Airbnb they rented, but there was a red table, like a red shiny table. So I had the bouquet behind the rings and the rings on the table.
Yeah, it looks like one color palette. Looks good.
This one's mine too. I don't like doing flat lays. I need some tips on how to make them better. Maybe they're not good because I don't like them.
On doing what? I missed the first part.
Flat lays, that's what that thing is called when you have all the details together and you shoot it from above and I don't know.
Well, the shoes
They take too long.
look like they're opposite.
What kind of
Yeah, they
lighting?
were flipped around.
What kind of lighting were you used and where was it?
This one I used in Ice Light. The venue we were in didn't have much good lighting and I can't remember why we liked it would have.
A lot of times for sparkly stuff, a single small light source gives you more sparkle. The bigger the light, the softer the.
I was using like what Aislinn just used, the Ice Light. I have an older version. But
Now, did you break it down and make individuals of each one?
yes. Now I love shooting details and I like doing the individual stuff, but in like bridal magazines and stuff like that, flat lays where it's everything together has been really popular, and I guess I just don't like them because I'm not good at them.
The more you do it,
But
the easier
I
it gets.
prefer- Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't ever seem to use it, what I like, and their invitation was like completely different, had a picture on it, so I didn't include that in this particular stuff.
Any tips?
No. I'm just thinking, because I do flat lays too, but I don't often do them in all details, but I do them in invitation pieces.
Right.
And what I have found helps me a lot, and this is what I was trying to decide if it would apply to this or not. But with invitations, what has kind of changed that for me is I'll elevate some of them, but I'll use like body caps or lens caps or films just to make some higher, so there's perspective, so when you shoot down your drop shadows. But I don't know how that would work with these little details. I would do just trying to figure out how you would do that.
Yeah, I angled the rings. That's not mine. Yeah.
I always try to create angles on mine or have everything like you did, parallel, like everything's very square, straight up and down, or angle it so you're creating different angles everywhere.
So you think, so
But
you
even
create-
overlaying some is what I do. Like I'll overlay stuff when I do those type of shots. But it's hard. The more stuff you get in there, the harder it is to me.
Did you put your mirror down?
Your eye would naturally come into
She did, she got a mirror.
Instead of having them this way. Gotcha. Yeah, she said.
There's netting over that whole thing, isn't there? Is there something over this whole thing?
No, it's just over that one. Yeah, no, it just looks like that because I think I brought the shadows up in post to give it that 80s look, which I don't often do, but it just needed, it was, so that one got quite Photoshop. But it doesn't, if you look on the computer, like, it doesn't look as bright. Some of that's.
Yeah.
She's trying to get the troops. She's doing a good job.
All right, I'm gonna move on. And we're done. Okay. Okay, my
That's it.
Anybody else have any other comments on that, since that's the last one?
When, anybody notice that the shoes are
I did.
reversed?
Yeah, the shoes got reversed.
You know that, right?
I wish I'd done it.
Well, and I think I did that because the sparkly side went like a certain way. It wasn't even
okay.
on both sides, so that inside, like the sparkly side wrapped over the toe and then around the outside of the shoe.
Okay.
It didn't wrap onto the inside, so you lose that. Anyway. you lose
Maybe
that.
if you just set one shoe.
I need one of those new people forms.
Okay.
And so do I.
All right,
I got those
then
very
I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the photo review. So normally what we do is we just say, if there's a Dropbox account that we've created out there for Gulf Coast P.P.A. If you become a new member, I'll send you a link to that. If you don't have Dropbox, it's very easy, it's free. But what we do is throughout the month, if you get a photo or something that you like and you want to show off, drop it in that account. I lost it now, but basically underneath that folder, there's one called Image Review for 2019, and then there's a list of the months in the year, and just drop it in that particular month for the upcoming year. And that's it. All right.
Yeah, it's a good way to kind of build your photography and start looking at it in a different way and just better yourself. You know, when my pictures get up there, nobody really says anything because either I'm a really good photographer or I'm just big and mean looking. Nobody wants to say anything. But thank you for all for coming. Everybody's welcome back next month. More likely, we probably will have it here. I think this is a pretty good spot to be. So thank you again for coming and enjoy the rest of your day.